Alright, the next thing we're going to do here is install our push rods and our push rod guide plates and the rocker arm studs to go right in these threaded holes in the head. Now on your big block Chevy, you have two different length push rods. The shorter one will go in your intake valve and the longer one will go on your exhaust valve. Now you know on your small block Chevy they're all the same size, but you need to pay attention to that. The short one goes in the intake valve, the long one goes in the exhaust valve. Now you're going to put your push rod guide plates on, which pretty much just line up very simply right to the holes here. Start these by hand. Now on this particular engine, these screws do not go into the cooling passages. Some of them they do, and I recommend putting a little silicone on the bottom of the threads of that. That way you'll get a liquid tight seal. You won't be leaking any oil or any coolant. So we're going to go ahead and tighten these down here. It's also a good idea to go ahead and check your push rods for straightness and make sure they're clean inside. You can just pretty much roll these on a table flat or any kind of flat surface, and if they're bent you can tell. And then also blow out the little orifice. This little tube is supposed to be hollow and clean all the way through, and that is used to distribute oil up to the top, which lubricates your rocker arms and push rods. So we've got those all installed. Now next I'm going to go ahead and torque these rocker studs down. I'm going to torque them to 45 pounds. There's really no need to tighten them tighter than that. And that's that. Now next we're going to go ahead and put our rocker arms on, and we'll adjust those one by one. We'll do that next. We're going to install our rocker arms. As you can see, I've got all the push rods installed, and I've gone ahead and lubricated all the ends of the push rods, the rocker studs, and the top of your valves. You want to get all that stuff lubricated before you put this stuff on. Now your stock rocker arm looks like something like this. This is basic stamped steel rocker arm, and obviously it goes right on here. Push rod end goes in this hole, the valve end goes on this hole. You have your rocker arm ball, which also you want to lubricate that, which fits right inside the rocker arm when that actually pivots on the rocker arm. And then you have your lock nut, which goes right on top of that. So anyways, this particular engine we're putting roller rocker arms on, and they have a little different way of finalizing our lockdown. They don't have a lock nut, they actually have a screw-in Allen screw, but it's the same basic principle. We're going to go ahead and take all the slack out of all the push rods, crank the engine according to the firing order, double check everything, and then once we get our preliminary valve adjustment, we're going to go ahead and turn each valve in one crank on this lock nut, which will depress the valve lifter just a tiny bit, so when it's running at high speed it doesn't open up and expand all the way to the point where it's hitting the little snap ring on top. That'll prevent a lot of wear and tear. It's also a good point to only turn them a turn in. You don't want to turn it in too far because you're going to go ahead and compress the little spring that's inside the valve lifter too much, and that could damage the lifter. So you have to find a happy medium on that. So we're going to go ahead and put this last two rocker arms on. Very simple. Go ahead and slide this on. As you can see, I've cranked the engine over so the intake valve is still open, and we're going to adjust this after the intake valve closes, and we're going to be on our number one compression stroke with the piston going back up. Go ahead and what I like to do is just spin these push rods until you could feel that you have tension on it. And now you have all the slack out that way. The rocker arm actually does have an upside and a downside, so go ahead and get these on here snug. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at our lifters down here. Watch that go back down. Actually, it's coming up still, and now it's going to go back down. I can actually see the cam through the little groove in here. When it's on the flat of the lobe, that's when we're going to go ahead and adjust these, because that means they're all the way closed. Your valves will be all the way closed on your compression stroke. So you can see that one's still a little loose, so we're going to crank that down. Spin the push rod with your fingers, and when you feel some tension on it, and there's no up and down movement, then that's just how you want it, just snug for now. So we're going to continue and go around, and I'm actually going to go through the firing order as if it was setting up spark plug wires or whatever, and go do the firing order and adjust each cylinder as it's on the compression stroke. It's real simple to do because you can see what you're doing with this valve coat. It's real easy to do because you can see what you're doing. Since you have this intake manifold off, you can actually watch your lifters. Well, now I've already taken all the free play out of all the cylinders while it's on the compression stroke of each cylinder. And simple enough, all we're going to do now is go 306 degrees tighter on each and one of these lock nuts. You may feel a little pressure pushing the valve spring in on some of them, and that's fine. Just go one whole turn. Now if you were running solid lifters, you'd have to adjust each one with a little bit of free play, usually 15 or 20 thousandths on some of these radical cams. We're just going to go 306 degrees tight on each one. Alright, so now that we've got each one